What's the one thing that Salesforce admins and other professionals that are handling data should stop doing right now with their data?
Taking it for granted.
Okay.
I think if you look at everyone using data for customer interaction at the moment, they're hoarding data, there's a lot of data, there's so many regulations around at the moment that govern how we should be collecting data, holding data, managing data, and I think admins, anyone that is managing a customer database, often takes that data for granted and doesn't look at necessarily where it's come from, whether they have the legal necessity to hold it, whether they need it to do business, or whether they should have it at all. There's lots of stats around data owners hoarding data, and that's the best advice I can offer. Know why you need it, and don't take it for granted.
Yeah, I suppose that paints a pretty bleak picture though. So
it certainly does.
What can admins work towards with their data? What should they start thinking about or doing now to help them in the future? 3
things I think. Compliance, completeness, and confidence. So back to what I said, you've got to know where the data has come from. You've got to know, do you have permission to hold it? Do you have consent from those users, especially consumer data? Just because you have someone's email address because they signed up for your website or a newsletter does not mean you should have their mobile phone number, because they may not have consented to that. So you have to have the data for the reason you need to hold the data, and not just hold that data, because you could be breaking laws in certain jurisdictions around the world. Completeness goes hand in hand with that. You need to have enough data to do business, right? You need a company address in order to send someone a product, for example. What you don't necessarily need, though, is the phone numbers and the email addresses of 50 executives or 200 employees of that company, because again, you may not have permission to hold that data, and it may not be necessary for you to do business. And there's growing amounts of regulatory pressure around the world for doing that kind of thing. And then correctness, have you got the correct data? There's a lot of ways you can validate that. So email validation, email verification, for example. Is the email address I have going to get to a human if I send it, provided I have permission to hold it? It's easy to verify a postcode is correct if you have a business address, for example. However, there's a lot of players around in the market at the moment looking at data enrichment. Now, just because I have your first name, surname, and email address, should I have your phone number? There are those organizations that could give me that phone number, but again, do I have permission to hold it? So completeness means many different things. What I need is the data that is complete for the purpose that I need it for, and I don't need any more than that. And it goes back to this data hoarding. You've only got to hold the data you have around customers and contacts and businesses that you need in order to do business. Otherwise, there's a growing number of laws that you may be breaking.
Yeah, definitely GDPR.
Exactly, and the CCPA in California, and there's they're all over the place. Absolutely more to come. Yeah.
And something clearly that will keep admins up at night. So many grey areas, and I guess in your role as global head of data solutions at Validity, it's something you think about all the time, something you're working into your product roadmap. So I'm sure many people watching would know about DemandTools. It's been in the market for so long. It's been an admin's best friend for probably over a decade, right? In fact, it's 15 years old now, isn't it?
Even more than that,
yeah. So what's your vision for the next generation of DemandTools, and what can we expect?
No, it's a great question and very timely. So it's actually, the DemandTools first came out under a slightly different name back in 2000. So it's almost as old as Salesforce, and was one of the very first apps on in the Salesforce ecosystem on the App Exchange.
Okay, interesting.
And it's been largely the same for a good long time now, and there's good reason for that. It does what it says on the tin. It does deduplication, mass modification, all of the data processes that an admin might want to do, and it does it amazingly well. However, we've had feedback, and two in fact of the big pieces of feedback we've had are, it looks old. It looks like old Windows app, and we wanted to do something about that, right? The other one was, it doesn't run on a Mac. Right, which was fine 15 years ago when the only people that use Macs were designers, but now everyone uses Macs. So we've been working really hard over the last kind of 18 months, pretty much coinciding with the pandemic, the CRM world quietened down. A lot of people took stock of what they were doing. They weren't buying new technology, so we took that opportunity to get developing and to get building out a new version of the product. And what we've done is we've ended up building a brand new version of DemandTools, DemandTools V release. And yes, it supports Mac. It also supports Linux for those of you inclined that way. But also what we've added is this ability to not just fix all of the problems with the data, which we've always had, but also the ability to assess the problems with the data.
Okay.
So anyone that decides to have a trial of the product, they can download the product, they can press literally one button, and it will assess the quality of the data and look for things like missing data points, duplication, missing fields, those kinds of things, any kind of large problems with the data, and then allow you to go and fix those.
So something really actionable.
It's absolutely, and you can tell right up front, I can see how big the problem is, right? And I can see where I'm in compliance, I can see how I have my completeness, I can see all of that stuff, and then I can go fix it.
Nice.
And where we go next, definitely other systems. At the same time as releasing this brand new version for Salesforce, we're releasing for Microsoft Dynamics. And we have a roadmap of other customer data repositories or systems that we're going to go after next. So it's really exciting times.
Definitely. Okay, well, that sounds really exciting, and we'll look forward to the review also on the blog that's going to be in production. And yeah, thanks so much for sharing your insight.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to it.
Cheers.